Hi, Gavin.
Hi, Louie.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm rested. I'm well.
My goodness.
Like slightly tan.
When you walked in, I was like, Gavin? Is this the Gavin?
You're like, this is a whole new girl.
Right. She has her nails did, her hair is right. Oh, welcome.
She doesn't look like Seal. Welcome to the Mixed Reviews.
Today we're talking about
Geena Davis.
Geena Bonina Brown Davis.
Yes. I gotta say, so we're doing Geena. Normally, we would handle old business where we talked about.
We don't have any old business.
We don't have any old business because we didn't put up a poll because our last episode was best films of 2017.
Correct.
And, we know this episode's a little late, and that's my fault. It's because major life decision. I quit my job and I went to Miami for like 5 days.
Gavin went to Miami, became a prostitute.
Yes.
I had to beg him to come back.
The preferred term is sex worker. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, America. Wow.
Very good at what I do.
Okay. You heard it here first, guys. Send emails at reviews.
Yeah, reviewsmixed@gmail.com
for Gavin's rates.
Hit me up. I just winked when I did that, and this is an audio-only podcast, so I hope you all enjoy that.
I enjoyed it.
Some other podcast news, I guess we're doing old business. We're finally on Spotify.
Yay!
So we're also on the iHeartRadio app.
That's where Taylor Swift is. I love her.
She lives there.
Guys, we are like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, we're just like Taylor Swift. I don't know how that works. I do not have an iHeartRadio app account, but if you have one, you can find us there.
Awesome. So. Love that.
Real quick, before we move into our rewind, how are you, Louie? How are things?
Good. The Oscar nominations came out a little bit ago.
They did. Everything you would expect to be nominated was nominated.
Right. Nothing for patty cakes. Travesty.
I'm genuinely shocked that there wasn't at least like an
original song.
They love to give it to rap songs.
Hello?
Hard Out Here for a Pimp is because a woman sang it.
That's why. It's because she's from Jersey.
Yeah. Jersey. They're like, listen, if the Grammys don't have to give out awards to women, we don't either.
Clock. Drag.
So moving into just talking about Geena Davis, I did want to mention real quick the reason I have my phone out, by the way. Geena Davis is a listener request, both from our friend Dave.
Yep.
Who's awesome and requested to be a guest opinion on this. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, we didn't invite him.
We sure did not.
No. Hi, Dave. And also, weirdly enough, and I was talking to her through the official Twitter account a couple months ago, Julie Benson, who is one of the co-writers of Batgirl and the Birds of Prey for DC Comics.
No shit.
And she's also one of the writers on CW's TV show The 100. And she's a huge Geena Davis fan. And I was like, we're going to do her on an episode. And she was like, do it.
Oh my God. Yes. I'm nervous now. Like, I hope I can give everything that she wants, she needs.
I love her. She's a great writer, by the way. Okay. I interviewed her back when I used to do the Midtown Comics podcast, and her and her sister, because they co-write together, and they are hands down one of the sweetest and smartest and funniest interviews I've ever done. So
it's like you're talking about me. Oh my God. Wow.
It's very cool that one of them listens to the show occasionally. So.
Awesome.
So hopefully we do not do you wrong.
So, you're taking care of our rewind, Gavin.
Yes.
So please just elucidate, inform, take me there.
Excellent. So, this is going to be a bit of an info dump, and I apologize, but there's a lot about Geena Davis, and most people, I don't think people think about that with her because she's not like a public celebrity.
Right.
But
anymore, at least.
Exactly. But
she's so iconic.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can talk about that more towards the fast forward, but I just in the rewind, born Victoria Elizabeth Geena Davis.
Wait, so Geena is just a nickname?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
She was born on January 21st, 1956, which means she's 62 years old, which is amazing because she looks like she's, 48?
Right.
Like,
she looks amazing.
Amazing. She was born in Wareham, Massachusetts. Her mother, Lucille, was a teacher's assistant, and her father, William F. Davis, was a civil engineer and a church deacon.
Ooh.
She has a brother named Dan. Anyways. She played both the flute and the organ since childhood, even playing the organ at her local church.
Oh my God, what a nerd. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. She attended Wareham High School, and she was an exchange student to Sandviken, Sweden.
Sandviken, Sweden?
Yeah, and she speaks fluent Swedish. Good
Queen.
for her.
It was unusual in many ways. The day after I got there, more or less, I went to the high school, Swedish high school, and it was in Swedish.
I have a feeling you learned Swedish.
I did. I don't.
Can you still speak Swedish?
Yes.
Fluently?
Yes. Yes.
I'd give the world to hear you speak Swedish. Ha! Ha is English too, you know. Can you say something to me? I love the sound of Swedish.
Jag kan inte. Det var så länge sedan jag kommer inte ihåg någonting.
What did you say?
I said I can't speak Swedish anymore. So long ago, I don't remember anything.
She graduated with a bachelor's degree in drama from Boston University in 1979. She is possibly a former member of Mensa. She's mentioned she's a member of Mensa before. No one knows if she's kept up with her dues.
Okay, yeah.
Mensa, if you don't know, most people that are in Mensa are very happy to tell you. They are an organization that is the top 2% of intelligence in the world.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Her first job following her education, and this is the craziest thing, she was a window mannequin for Ann Taylor.
Oh, I believe it 10,000%.
Yes.
She looks like an actual model.
Yeah, well, then she became
an actual model.
Yeah, working for the Zoli modeling agency in New York City.
How tall is she? Do we have information on hand?
Oh, I don't actually.
Because she's a giant human being.
She is so tall.
And when you see in those early movies, like in Tootsie,
yeah.
She is just like the tallest, most statuesque, skinny, like itty bitty.
Oh my god, how skinny she is!
She's so skinny, but also her hair is so large.
She Tootsie was her first film role for Sidney Pollack. It was 1982. She plays a soap opera actress in a very throwaway role, but good for her. Following that, she did a ton of TV. She did a short-lived television series called Buffalo Bill with Dabney Coleman, and then she did a bunch of guest appearances. Oh, I should mention about Buffalo Bill. She wrote one of the episodes, which is really uncommon for an actress starting out.
Yeah, that's wild. Was she not a Knight Rider?
Yes, she was a Knight Rider. She did an episode of Knight Rider. She did 3 episodes of Family Ties. And then she eventually got her own TV series in the late 80s called Sarah, which co-starred a lot of very famous people who at the time were not, who are also starting out. That list includes Alfre Woodard.
Oh, wow.
Bill Maher.
Wow.
And Bronson Pinchot of Perfect Strangers.
Of course.
Cousin Balky.
Yes.
Then after that, back to films. Fletch, The Fly, Beetlejuice, and finally getting a supporting actress nod for The Accidental Tourist in 1988. She got a Best Actress nomination for Thelma and Louise in 1991.
She won.
Yeah, she won for The Accidental Tourist.
Right.
Yes, yeah. I believe it was just a nomination for Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, she did not win for Thelma and Louise. No.
And she has 2 Golden Globes, I believe, and I have that information.
Right, she was nominated for A League of Their Own.
Yes.
And what else? What could let's see. Maybe she got one for Thelma and Louise.
I think Thelma and Louise was the
In the 90s, she was in like 2 movies a year. It was insane.
Absolutely. So A League of Their Own is a really interesting case because she replaced Deborah Winger very late in the game. And she is both incredibly intelligent, as we mentioned the Mensa thing, but also incredibly athletic. One of the interesting facts I learned about A League of Their Own was the cast had been learning the sport for months. And she started a week before filming. She was cast in the role that Deborah Winger vacated. And by the end of that week, she was regularly playing the game expertly and beating the rest of the other players, except for the other 2 best players on the team were Laurie Petty, who plays her sister, and Rosie O'Donnell. And Rosie O'Donnell could actually throw 2 balls at once with accuracy.
Damn, Rosie!
Yeah, I know. I did not know that. Better not piss her off, President Trump.
Hello. She'll throw some balls at you.
Exactly. And she has bigger ones than you do.
Damn. Sick burn, Gavin.
Yeah. Oh, take that, Mr. President. She has been married 4 times.
4 times.
She was previously married to Richard Molio. It lasted a year. From 1982 to 1983. She was married to actor Jeff Goldblum.
Oh,
daddy. 87 to 89. They did 3 films together. Transylvania 65000, The Fly, and Earth Girls Are Easy. And Rennie Harlan from 93 to 98, who directed her in Cutthroat Island and Long Kiss Goodnight.
Geena, how did this project come to you?
Well, I happened to be married to the director, and it came rather easily, in fact. Actually, Rennie had been developing this project for a while before we met. But then it actually started all coming together and happening, and there was this part for a female pirate, and it all worked out. It's wonderful, actually. We love being together, we love working together, and we both really loved the movie, so it was actually really inspiring to be able to work hard on something together and be together all the time.
She's currently married to Reza Jahari, and she married him in 2001.
Yeah, and I was like reading up all on the scandal because her and Jeff Goldblum was like very hot and like gossip.
I mean, they are very hot.
They are very hot.
Yeah.
If you've seen The Fly, whew, they are hot. But I was reading like, and there was like an article that was like basically implied that even after they broke up, that they were still like kind of fucking around, swinging, just like being sexy young actors.
God,
in the
I
90s.
wish.
I was like, oh my God, tell me more.
Dear Penthouse, I never thought this would happen to me.
Right. I'm in a bedroom with Jeff Goldblum.
She has 3 children with her current husband, Eliza Keshner Jahari, and fraternal twin sons, Kian William Jahari and Kaya Stephen Jahari. She's a huge supporter of the Women's Sports Foundation and an advocate for Title IX, an act of Congress focusing on equality in sports and opportunities, now expanded to prohibit gender discrimination in the United States educational institution. In 1999, this is one of my favorite fun facts. You know how I was mentioned she was sporty and with baseball?
Right.
Davis was one of 300 women who vied for a semifinals berth in the U.S. Olympic archery team to participate in the Sydney 2000 Summer Olympics. She placed 24th of 300 and did not qualify for the team, but participated as a wild card entry in the Sydney International Golden Arrow competition. In August 99, Davis then stated that she was not an athlete growing up and that her introduction to archery was in 1997, 2 years before her tryouts.
Katniss who?
Yeah.
Whew.
You're an Olympic athlete. I mean, you're an archer. You're
Nearly.
Yeah, but still, you're world class. Watching you play in this game, did you have some skills playing?
I didn't know how to play baseball or any sport.
Really?
When I took this up.
What?
At all. I was the tallest kid in class in high school and was very self-conscious, fervently wished that I took up less space in the world. And I didn't play any sport. They were constantly begging me to join the basketball team. And I was like, I can't play. And they said, just stand there.
And then
In 2 years, being able to like qualify to even try out for the Olympics?
Yeah.
Disgusting.
I know.
Amazing.
I can't get up your steps without being winded. I have no idea how this person is a human.
She's not a human.
She's not. My other big favorite thing before we move into her acting, she's done 2 other, I guess I should mention she's done 2 other TV shows. She had a sitcom and the
Geena Davis Show.
The Geena Davis Show. And she also had Commander-in-Chief, in which she played the president, which was on when I was in college. And she won a Golden Globe for her role. Still not enough to keep it on with the ratings. But she played the first woman president.
Yeah, I think like I read something that there was some also politics at ABC about what they wanted to do with the show. And I'm sure Geena Davis was like, I'm Geena Davis.
I know we don't talk about TV that much on this, but I watched one of the episodes of the sitcom, and let me tell you, she has better things to do than be stuck in that sitcom.
Good.
Though I will admit the guest star in that episode was Katie Sagal of Married with Children fame and Futurama, and I'm a huge Katie Sagal fan. I know everybody nowadays, I guess everybody would be like, oh, Katie Sagal, what's the
Sons of Anarchy?
Sons of Anarchy, but no,
She's so serious.
I can't be bothered.
You're like, that sounds too spooky.
Anarchy.
No, thank you.
My other favorite thing outside of her acting, though, is how much of an advocate for women and how much she is involved in charities. In 2004, watching children's television programs and videos with her daughter, Davis noticed an imbalance in the ratio to male to female characters. Davis went on to sponsor the largest research project ever undertaken on gender in children's entertainment, resulting in 4 discrete studies, including one in children's television, at the Annenberg School for Communication and the University of Southern California. The study, directed by Dr. Stacy Smith, showed that there were nearly 3 males to every 1 female character in the nearly 400 G, PG, PG-13, and R-rated movies the undergraduate teams of Annenberg students analyzed.
I didn't intend to take it this far, to launch an institute and all this, but I found that nobody else was noticing. And in fact, when I asked people within the industry what they thought about it, they all said, every single person I asked said, that's not a problem anymore, that's been fixed. So I realized this is something people really aren't seeing, because I didn't expect to find it in kids' entertainment either. I assumed, well, things are messed up in general, but I'm sure they put a lot of thought into kids' media. But it wasn't the case. So that's why I ended up sponsoring now the largest amount of research ever done on gender depictions in media, covering over a 20-year span. And no one had done research at all on the subject before, which also shows that people weren't thinking about it. In G, PG, and PG-13 films, for every one female-speaking character, there are 3 male characters. If you look at the crowd scenes and group scenes, both in live action and animated, there's only 17% female characters. 17%. So in the fictitious worlds that are being created for them, whether it's an outer space colony or an undersea world or a magical kingdom, the population is only about 17% women. So what message is that sending to boys and girls from the beginning if the female characters simply aren't there? And forget about the fact that they're also, our research showed, highly stereotyped, hypersexualized, very, very often, even in G-rated movies, and have very few occupations and aspirations beyond finding romance.
In 2005, Geena teamed with the nonprofit group Dads and Daughters to launch a venture dedicated to balancing the number of male to female characters in children's television and movie programming. Davis launched the Geena Davis Institute on Gender and Media in 2007. The Institute's first focus was an on-the-ground program that works collaboratively with the entertainment industry to dramatically increase the presence of female characters in media aimed at children and to reduce stereotyping of females by the male-dominated industry. For her work in this field, she received an honorary Doctor of Fine Arts degree from Bates College in 2009.
That's awesome.
In 2011, Davis became one of the handful of celebrities attached to USAID and Ad Council's FWD campaign, an awareness initiative tied to the year's East Africa drought. In 2015, Davis launched an annual film festival to be held in Bentonville, Arkansas, to highlight diversity in film, accepting films that prominently feature minorities and women in the cast and crew. The Bentonville Film Festival took place from May 5th to 9th in 2015 and began accepting submissions in January 15th.
Yeah, I love that it's Bentonville.
Yeah.
Also, the prize for this film festival is guaranteed distribution.
It's a really beautiful little town in Arkansas, and the whole purpose of it is to champion women and diverse voices in all kinds of media, actually, and we have the film festival. And we're the only one. The interesting thing is we're the only film festival in the world that awards guaranteed distribution to the winners. So they'll be in theaters, on TV, and digital, and DVDs.
I mean, most of the times you get, like, a grant or some sort of prize or maybe a fucking trophy.
Right.
But, like, distribution?
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah.
And I love that she decided to do it in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it would have been so easy to be like, okay, we're doing this big thing in LA or this big thing in New York. And she decided, like, we're going to go to places where maybe they're not as well known for their, like, contributions to the arts. But I'm sure, like, Bentonville is benefiting so much from this, film festival. And yeah, I think she's fucking cool.
Yeah, and the fact that she's doing so much to advance diversity of women in films and to make sure that, it's sort of like we joke, anybody that's a film fan jokes about the Bechdel test, or maybe not even jokes about the Bechdel test, but talks about it.
Yeah.
About how a film can pass or fail a Bechdel test by having two women speak to each other in a movie, not about a man. And, she's putting truth to power by being like, I want to make sure that there's women in films who are being represented, who are not stereotypes, who are not talking about a man, who are living their lives and fulfilling their dreams in a realistic way that doesn't, make people think that women are just there as sex objects or saviors.
Right. And I think also what's really interesting about her is she's not just like crying about it. She's like, okay, I'm going to get the data together. And then we're going to go to companies and say, like, look, this is the data. This is the truth. And I think also one of the big studies she did was proving that movies that feature prominently minorities and women, they make more money than other movies do. And so she has all this, like, she's like, receipts, here they are.
Exactly. She has proof and everything. And just, I don't know, it's really cool to be able to have somebody that has this ability to get her voice out there, actually, speak truth to power.
Yeah.
She's even received a $1.2 million grant from Google, which the Institute used to develop the Geena Davis Inclusion Quotient.
What's going to happen to her?
Software that tracks the number of times a woman appears on screen and how many lines she has.
One really interesting thing they found early on, which nobody was looking for, was that female characters are on screen less when they're talking. In other words, they're cutting to something else.
When a movie has a male lead, the The guys usually have triple the screen time and triple the lines. When a movie has a female lead, men and women usually appear the same amount of times and have the same number of lines.
I have to reach everybody involved in a production in order to try to fix this. But what I do say is make whatever you're already going to make. Don't add a message, don't do anything else except before you shoot it, just go through the script and change a bunch of first names to female. And where it says a crowd gathers, just add, comma, which is half female.
In 2015, films featuring a female lead did better at the box office, grossing 15.8% more than films that feature a male lead. Yet women comprised only 17% of protagonists featured in the biggest movies of the year. And while we're all aware that women aren't offered enough compelling parts in TV and film, the Institute's data is the first comprehensive study to show just how far they have to go.
You know, I always say it's the one sector of society with big imbalance that can change overnight. I think I've latched onto something that's incredibly doable. And once I prove it with the data, people are so inclined to act on it because they didn't know.
So I'm happy she was suggested because, you know, she doesn't have a movie coming out this week. You know, sometimes we do that. We do more people who are in the news at the moment. Geena Davis is not, and she hasn't really, career-wise, been in the news in a while. She still does movies. She still does TV shows. Right. She was on, Grey's Anatomy in 2014.
She was. She's on The Exorcist right now.
She's on she was on The Exorcist.
Is that over?
Yeah, she was on the first season only.
Oh,
so she was
I don't really watch that.
Yeah, it's great. Well, the first season one. I haven't finished the second season. I'll get around to it at some point. John Cho's on it. He's adorable. Oh. Anyways, yeah, she was on the first season of The Exorcist. She had a film come out this past year, Marjorie Prime. So, she's still working. She's still doing whatever she wants. But it is cool that she has this status and she can do that. Plus, she keeps showing up at every award show with, I know everybody's kind of upset at Susan Sarandon because the whole political thing, we're not getting into that, but they've been showing up together because of Thelma and Louise.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see them,
yeah. It's fun.
And she looks fantastic. She looked amazing at the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
So
I love her so much.
Yeah, me too.
Should we get into our picks?
We should.
Okay, our 1-star reviews.
1-star reviews.
She's been in a lot of good movies.
Yes.
She has also been in a lot of not great movies.
I have to agree.
And I think I have to make the distinction that she's been in some not good movies that are batshit bananas that are still entertaining. But then there's also bad movies that I was like, this is boring. And I just have to say that I'm a cliche, but Cutthroat Island is just...
That's 100% the thing about So I had never seen Cutthroat Island.
Me either.
I was shocked at how boring it was.
I was shocked.
Because it has this reputation of... The famous thing about Cutthroat Island, as we mentioned before, she made it with her husband, Rennie Harlan.
Right.
Who was the director at the time. And it was a notorious flop. It made 1/10 of its budget back. It was a $100 million film. Yeah. It made... $10 million.
The thing I'll say is it looks expensive.
Yes.
It looks very expensive.
The film itself, Rennie Harlan's direction's not even the problem necessarily.
No, it's just what... So, what I read was she and her husband wanted to launch this action star for... I mean, they wanted to prove that women could be action stars.
Right.
In the middle of the 90s. And this is a time when, all these buddy cop movies were coming out, and it's action, explosions, adventure, blah, blah, blah. But it was all men. And so Geena Davis said, I can do that. And her husband was like, yes, let's do that. And so they got money together, and they decided to make this and The Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah.
Which is similar in that it's batshit crazy, but it's not boring. It's entertaining. No. It's entertaining.
I would actually say everything about Long Kiss Goodnight is improved except for the I would say the direction is maybe the issue in Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah, the Cutthroat Island is... so Cutthroat Island is about a female pirate. Her name is Morgan Adams.
Yes.
But a lot of her pirate friends call her Morgan.
Yes. I also loved... the first, one of the first things that happened in the movie, and maybe the, grossest thing that occurs in the entire movie, and so it's weird that happens right off the bat. Her father dies.
Yeah.
He has a treasure map on his, tattooed on his head, and she has to scalp him?
Yeah. So this movie is, she is a pirate of the sea. Her father dies, and so she inherits this treasure map, and she's I gotta find it. And so she takes over the entire ship, and she has to be like, tough girl, yeah, guys, it's fine. Like, I'm the captain now. Like, it is very that, and it's cool. Except when you realize she's the only woman out of all of them. Also,
she's basically the only woman in the movie.
Truly. And essentially, like, her uncle has a part of the map, the other uncle has a part of the map.
Right.
And they're all trying to get these pieces of the map together to go find Cutthroat Island and get this treasure. Matthew Modine is in this movie.
Matthew Modine, seasoned in 1995 Matthew Modine, which is when the movie came out. To me, he felt like the only person really having fun.
Right, yeah.
Like,
I think a big part of some of her movies that she is in, I don't know if, like, either her or the director or anyone knows what they're doing. Like, is this campy, or are we playing it straight? Are we, like...
Well, that's the other... Like, and it's a really bad script as well, too. I do not want to give any credit to the script of Cutthroat Island. She seemed genuinely uncomfortable delivering some of the lines. And and as you mentioned, she doesn't seem to know how to play it either.
I have it on authority that you are fluent in Latin.
Ah, Latin. The Romance language. I can speak Latin like I was born in the ancient Senate. A regular Cicero. Why, do you have children who wish to learn? I'd make a first-class teacher in a tasteful country house. I can do most arithmetic, though I do confess to a weakness in long division.
Stop your chatter and say something Latinish.
Porquissima mulier es et pedis levare volo. What did you say? You're a very beautiful woman. I'd like to wash your feet.
You like to wash things, do you? Start with your mouth.
It's like, is she doing sexy? Is she doing camp?
Yeah, like, because I think this movie wants to do two things. I think she and her husband want this to be empowerment, women, but the script is so gross, and it's like, her boobs are falling out all over the place, which is fine, but like, there's a lot of jokes at the expense of women, and like, at like, like, look, I got your balls, like, silly things that are just like not... It is not empowering.
No.
And so, and I bet you a lot of people on that movie thought they like pat themselves on the back for what they were doing, but like it's not the tea.
Right.
Like,
and I will be perfectly honest. The reason it ended up costing so much was, I want to say, at least 80% Rennie Harlin's fault, because they were taking so much time doing other things that they built a set without his approval. And when he showed up, he was like, "Tear it all down. I want it rebuilt."
Jesus.
And
Christ.
so like, yeah, I mean, it's not like. It was a box office bomb, not because of her, but I do think her career suffered because of it.
For sure. And I think, like, when you watch the movie, it's like there's huge ships and like luscious islands, and there's big fight scenes that are very whatever. Like, also like they have a bunch of like one-liners that just like don't land.
Yeah,
you know, like there's like.
I mean, they're painful, the one-liners.
Yeah, I mean, there's, like, the sexual tension between her and Matthew Modine. I will say this right now. There are only, like, her and Jeff Goldblum, their chemistry is incredible.
And they did 3 movies together, so it can't even be disputed.
Anywhere else, when there's, like, a romantic person involved, I'm like, huh.
I felt more heat with her and Bill Pullman in the one scene in A League of Their Own
10,000%
that I did between her and Matthew Modine.
Yes, because... I mean, another movie that she did Speechless with Michael Keaton. Who they worked together on Beetlejuice. Yeah. And in this movie, I was like, I did not believe for one second that Geena Davis wants to make out with Michael Keaton.
Yeah, or anyone.
Absolutely not. Truly. She also did Hero, which is not a good movie.
No.
But what's the name of that Latino actor who's Garcia?
Godfather 3?
Andy Garcia. Andy Garcia. I will give him... I mean, he's just a very sexual man.
Yeah,
so I him and her, yeah. I think she has a very specific energy, and I don't think a lot of men can, like, match her.
That's another... Hero's another movie that's, like, incredibly poorly directed in terms of the acting, because there's one it's so funny, not to get off track, but the movie Hero has one person that really knows what they're doing, which is Chevy Chase. And
10,000%.
And he couldn't be credited on the film because he was under contract with Columbia Pictures at the time, and they loaned him out, which is something I didn't know was happening in the 90s. I thought that was like wild. Studio system, but no, he was under contract with another, and like Hero is written to be like a Preston Sturges, like 1940s, like really fast talking, like His Girl Friday almost type thing, and the only person who gets that, like and also just don't cast Dustin Hoffman in that type of movie.
God,
just don't.
Chevy Chase.
We had to sit through 2 Dustin Hoffman movies. We love you, audience.
Literally, all I wrote down for Tootsie was, why do people like Dustin Hoffman?
This is new.
I christened it. Dustin Hoffman, just like, I don't find him charming. I don't like him at all. I'm not here for her. Yeah. So I just my pick is Cutthroat Island, and it's a shame because it did hurt her career, and that was towards the end of the 90s. I think she had built up a lot of like clout in her career, and she could do a lot of whatever she wanted. And
well, I mean, that is the time and place in which she did like what people consider her best work, Thelma and Louise, A League of Their Own. And so, you get the end of the 90s, and it's a little less. Those 2 movies really hurt her. Long Kiss Goodnight and Cutthroat Island. And it's not that Long Kiss Goodnight is bad. It just ended up being a box office bomb. And Shane Black, who has his own... I've always liked Shane Black. And then I read a bunch of the interviews he did during Long Kiss Goodnight. And I was like, oh...
Is this Shane Black who did, like, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
Yeah. Okay. And Iron Man 3 and Lethal Weapon.
Wild.
So he wrote the script, and he really blamed Cutthroat Island for Long Kiss Goodnight's failure. But he also said a bunch of other like shitty shit, and also Rennie Harlan and Geena Davis made some good cuts to Long Kiss Goodnight, because in the original script, apparently there was a subplot about Samuel Jackson, like he has a wife and a kid, and in the original script he couldn't see his kid because he'd been to prison and he was raped in prison, and his wife didn't want his son around that. Yeah, and it's just like, Shane Black, you have some issues.
Long Kiss Goodnight, there's a lot of aggressive, should we do a She Said That moment right after that? Okay.
She said what?
She said what? And that's from the Long Kiss Goodnight, and it's not from Geena.
Right.
It's a Samuel Jackson line, and only he could deliver this line. And I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, let's just roll the clip.
See, you're assuming I won't shoot your sorry ass, and everyone knows when you make an assumption, you make an ass out of you and umption. Now, I'm Sergeant Madigan Vice, and if you do cop a 2 jerk off, I will see to it you spend the next 10 years in prison getting ass fucked. And if the case is thrown out because my arrest was too violent, I will personally hire men to ass fuck you for the next 10 years. So if you're an ass fucking fan, you go ahead and mouth off. Meanwhile, you're under arrest for the crime of prostitution.
This movie is insane, but why don't we talk about your 1-star review?
So I feel a little bad giving it to this movie because she's in it so little, but this movie was such a pain in the ass to watch. It's a film that used to be on Comedy Central all the time as a kid, so I assumed that it was a funny movie.
Okay.
It is not. It is a little film from 1985, so it's early in her carear, called Transylvania 6-5000.
I didn't watch that one.
Yeah, you saved yourself some time.
Okay. Okay, good. I figured, like, she wasn't in...
The funny thing is she's not necessarily in Transylvania 6-5000 a lot, but it is like one of the early defining roles, because when I think of Geena Davis, I think of her in her costume for that film. It's this very like skimpy Dracula-esque.
I have seen that photo. It's like a very low cut, and it's like shoulders.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so Transylvania 6-5000 is a movie about 2 people that Jeff Goldblum and Ed Begley Jr. work for this Weekly World News-esque newspaper. Jeff Goldblum wants to do more like straight news stories, and Ed Begley Jr. is an idiot. And they go to Transylvania to try and capture footage of a Frankenstein monster, and they end up meeting all these monsters, and then you find out that none of them are monsters at all. But it's a quote-unquote comedy.
Allegedly.
It's clearly heavily improvised. In fact, there's one scene where the script direction was that 2 characters played by John Berner and Carol Kane cut fruit and serve. And, like, that scene goes on for, like, 10 minutes because they're improvising. And admittedly, it's funny because they're funny people. But, like, it's one of the few moments in the film where that works. So it seems like every scene probably had that sort of direction.
And serve.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff Goldblum and Geena Davis met each other on this film, but she's not even his love interest. She's Ed Begley Jr.'s love interest. The film was originally written for Tom Hanks and Peter Scolari, who were in the TV show Bosom Buddies at the time. Huh. And the production company wouldn't put up the money because they had never heard of Tom Hanks.
Right. A nobody.
Yeah, a nobody.
A simpleton.
Yeah. You know, really, he missed out.
Right.
The craziest thing about this movie is the movie was financed by the Dow Chemical Company in order to spend, quote, frozen finances, money that couldn't be spent outside the country of origin. And that company had it in Yugoslavia, which is where they shot the film.
This is like seriously some fucking...
Yeah, it basically sounds like tax evasion, the film.
Literally. This is like a B plot from a bad like movie for bad guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically the plot of the movie, of the movie The Producers, where they're like, we can make more money with a bomb than with a hit.
Right.
But yeah,
and it got Geena her star.
It did. But it just pains me because there's so many other people in it that like are really well known. As I mentioned before, Carol Kane is in it, doing her damnedest to find comedy. Where Jeffrey Jones, who it turns out is a child molester, so we don't like him anymore.
Okay,
but you'll know him from Beetlejuice, and he's the principal from Ferris Bueller.
Is he the?
He's the father.
The father. I didn't know any of those things. God.
Yeah. And Michael Richards of Seinfeld fame is in it doing the most unfunny shtick ever. Where he's just like making faces and mugging for the camera. Gina's character appears maybe 4 times in the movie. She thinks she's a vampire, and literally she thinks that she has to dress as a vampire to be interesting because she's hideous. But the main doctor in the movie has already given her plastic surgery and she doesn't know she's beautiful. So also, it's a really shitty representation of women.
Because you're not a vampire.
I know. But it gets me attention.
You don't need that kind of attention.
Yes, I do. I'm ugly.
How can you say that? You're gorgeous.
Look at my nose.
Your nose is perfect. Psst. I gave her a nose job. You are beautiful.
Oh, I'm not.
You are.
They're reaching, Your Honor.
Yes, and it just makes me sad that this movie exists. And I was really bummed because I was like, oh, I get to watch this movie. I remember being on Comedy Central all the time as a kid. And it's a disaster.
That's why I wanted to watch Tootsie. Honestly, I was like, oh, I've never watched it. Oh yeah, she looks amazing.
Yeah, she looks amazing. She's got her tits out for the boys. And she's got a cape, and she's gorgeous in the film, but it's just...
Does the movie know that it's like...
Jeff Goldblum clearly knows.
Okay, good.
Like, Jeff Goldblum is literally just like, I'm here to cash a check.
Right.
And, like, admittedly, he met Geena Davis, and she was looking like this the whole time.
Hello.
So, like, I get it. I get it.
If you're slinging, we're banging, okay?
Yeah.
Like...
Also, famously, the movie had one of the best and quickest reviews on TV.
The quickest review? Like, did Ebert was like, it's bad!
Essentially. So, Leonard Maltin, reviewing the film for Entertainment Tonight, gave it the shortest review ever. What they did is they played the Glenn Miller song Pennsylvania 65000, and when it gets to the point where they say Pennsylvania 65000, he just turned to the camera and said, Transylvania 65000 stunk. I'm Leonard Maltin. Entertainment Tonight.
Leonard Maltin, you sassy sphinx.
When he was asked about it later, he was like, that review still holds up.
He's like, yeah. He's like, what is the question? I don't know.
Yeah. I get it. Everybody does shit early in their careers. I don't want to begrudge her. But yeah, it's real not good, and I wouldn't waste your time. And it's not my job to tell you not to watch something, but like, you could literally do anything else.
Right.
Time.
I mean, and so I think what's funny, and I guess we can talk about other movies that aren't so great.
Yes.
Movies like, so Earth Girls Are Easy is like a really funny movie.
If you say something bad about Earth Girls Are Easy, I'm leaving this apartment.
What I'm saying is this movie knows what it is.
Yes.
It is aware.
And apparently it was much longer than the original cut, and they like removed a bunch of stuff and they put in the beach song,
I'm Blonde,
which is my favorite thing in the world.
I need this on Broadway stat. Okay?
Yeah, they tried right before September 11th.
And then, the Terror Swan.
You know who played Geena Davis's role in the workshop of it?
Geena Davis?
No, I would have loved that. Kristen Chenoweth.
Hey Chen, she would have killed it.
Yeah,
she would have killed it. But like, so this movie is very dumb and silly, but like it knows it. And Jeff Goldblum and Jim Carrey, and David Wayans, like trifecta of comedy.
Julie Brown,
yes,
who like the movie is written based off her song, Earth Girls Are Easy. That's it. That was the plot of the movie. Yeah, she wrote a song called that, and it
looks stupid.
Yeah.
It is stupid. The songs are amazing and stupid. But
you get to hear Geena sing, which is very rare.
Yeah, and Geena is like serving body yaddy yaddy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely objectifying her.
Yes,
but she's in on the joke.
Yes, I was going to say it's an objectification that she is aware of.
Right.
And it's funny because I would actually like to bring up a film that that apparently everybody loved that I hated. So, 1988, she wins an Academy Award for The Accidental Tourist.
Yeah.
The Accidental Tourist is a garage. I know why everyone loved it at the time. I mentioned it's 1988. Essentially all critics, except for maybe Pauline Kael at the time, were male. And it is one of those fucking boring melodramas about a guy who's broken and someone's gonna fix him and the quirky dream girl's gonna come in and fix him, and in the end he's gonna realize she's the one for him because she's it's one of those movies that's filled with impossibly quirky characters. He's a man whose child is shot in a robbery, shot in the head, and his wife, who's played by Kathleen Turner, leaves him at the beginning. He moves back home with his
brother and sister.
Two brothers and sister. One of his brothers being Ed Begley Jr. again. And his boss, Bill Pullman, starts to have a relationship with his sister. And the rest of his family is really quirky.
And he writes travel guides.
Yes, called The Accidental Tourist for people who hate travel.
Yeah, it's very up in the air. It's very don't be too messy. Don't take anything. Don't be messy. It's very on the nose.
He has a dog who's a complete asshole.
The dog sucks.
Yeah, and he brings him to a kennel type place to board him while he is away for a bit writing one of his travel books, and he meets Geena Davis. And Geena Davis is hardcore pursuit. She's like, here's my number if you ever need anything.
Well, maybe.
I'll call you later. Yeah. And she's quirky as fuck for no reason. Quirky.
Tell you what, maybe I could just come around and discuss it.
Well, I don't really think...
Or you could come to my place. I'd fix you supper. Make him. What do you say?
I think for now I'll just try to manage on my own.
Well, I can understand that. Believe me, I've been through that stage. So what I'll do is, I'll wait for you to get in touch.
Yes, that would be good. Goodbye.
I don't want to be pushy.
He looks like he's wearing very sad sweaters,
right?
And she's wearing scrunchies, purple tops,
and there's nothing between them that makes me say wow, she really likes.
Yeah, she would get into him. He's the most dour person.
Yes,
literally, Gavin. What I wrote down: The Accidental Tourist, 1998, Oscar, but why?
Yes, and I'll give her this. She's really good in the movie. She's great at playing this very one-note character, but
she's playing it kind of Asperger's-y.
Yes, yeah.
It's very oh, well, that's fine, but okay, I'll be back though, and we're friends, okay, it's very teetering on the edge of Asperger's, and I'm sorry if that's offensive, but it's just there's no reason why she would be this way.
She does seem to be on the spectrum, and she only seems to be on the spectrum because the plot wants her to be, not because she is in any way, shape, or form. I have to say, one of the most offensive scenes comes late in the game after he's left her to go back to his wife before he realizes he has nothing in common with his wife. Also, I fucking love Kathleen Turner. Why did she take this nothing role? This role was absolutely... Yeah, absolutely. There's a scene, because he's a writer, where he imagines Geena Davis talking to him, and she has to deliver the worst line in the movie. And she says to him, "You're really gonna do this? Just use people until you're done with them? Is that what I am to you? Just some sort of bottle of something that you can use until it's gone?"
Blech.
Yeah.
Bottle of something.
I hate this movie. Genuinely, this was nominated for Best Picture.
I wasn't as offended as you were, but I was definitely bored. I was the last thing I want to mention is, you watched Angie?
Yes.
Which came out in 1994.
Yes.
Based on the book, Angie says, I watched, this was maybe the last thing I watched, and she looks great.
She does.
She is working very hard for that accent.
Yeah, that's the problem. But anyways, go on.
I mean, talk to me about Angie is about a woman in Brooklyn who her mother left her as a child.
Yeah.
She's
idealized her memory of her mother.
Right, and she's grown up with her best friend, and they're modern women in the 90s. They go into the city every day to work on the F train. And
she's been dating James Gandolfini for years.
Since the ninth grade.
And
she gets pregnant, but they're not married. There's a lot of things in this movie that were weird to me. Essentially, she's a free spirit and wants to. She's like, I don't want to get married anymore. And
because she meets Stephen Rea, who's very charming and very. Oh, really? See, I found him charming, and I could see it in your face.
Literally, all I could think of was like, this guy looks like a fucking troll.
Yeah, he's not an attractive guy, but I do think that there was a quality about him.
They do have like some chemistry. I'll give him that. But like.
And he, like, in context of that, I ended up, Angie was a total bomb for her. I ended up really liking the movie. I hate her accent. I really wish they could have let her do
normal things.
Normal thing.
Can I buy you dinner?
What are you, lonely or horny? What's your problem? Huh?
I'm Irish, which often gets confused for lonely and horny.
He's a real nut job. But he's cute. I can't go out with you no more.
We're getting married and you can't go out with me no more?
Never met a woman like you.
Now what is that, a crack?
I've met teamsters like you.
But, I ended up being really charmed by this film, and I think part of it was I, for some reason, really identified with this woman who, like, is very one way in her life, and her life has been very one way, and suddenly this element comes along that seems, like, shiny and new, and, like a switch goes off, and she abandons everything.
Yeah.
And then, like, the part at the end, when she finally reconnects with her mother, and I don't want to say too much, but when she finds out why her mother abandoned her, and it sort of brings her back to reality, I was shocked at how sympathetically that was handled for the 90s, and it's a little extreme. But it's definitely it was the kid gloves were more on for that than I think they had been for other films at the time.
What I'll say though is, so she has, I was more interested in her best friend, honestly. Her best friend who has a really shitty husband and has kids and is like struggling to like, she wants to be a modern woman, but she is in the trappings of like a Catholic household and, whatever. And they are building this world where like, it's really Catholic things are happening. They baptize this baby with James Gandolfini. I was like, and I turned to my friend who I saw it with and I was like, there is no way a Catholic church would have baptized this baby if they're not fucking married.
Right.
I was like, that's wild.
Also, at the time, the baby didn't have a name. Was that so when the baby didn't have a name?
Yeah, the baby didn't have a name. Also, and I thought, I was waiting for like the big blow up about like, she doesn't, essentially she's like, James Gandolfini, I want to go have fun. I want more out of life. And I think there's a lot of interesting things there to pursue and I understand, but also, James Gandolfini's like, oh fuck, that sucks, I guess. And I was like, wait, and the father character doesn't care?
But I will, like, just to play devil's advocate, I did like that it was sort of against type, and maybe it's because we've also had 20 years on of James Gandolfini, who's, first of all, amazing in the film, and, like, I love James Gandolfini and everything. And
may she rest in peace?
Yeah, I was going to say, lost him way too soon. But I liked that for being the sort of tough Italian guy, he's not the stereotype. He's not. Way more milquetoast than that. My problem's not with him. My problem is with her, like, family. Like, they're telling us that it's her life is a certain way and it's very rigid, but then, like, they give her all these, like, passes, which is fine, but what makes me believe that, like, she's not really the one part where we see her yearning for more is like when she's like looking through a book and she wants to go to a museum. Right.
I really didn't get the sense where she wanted all of her freedom she wants is to like go have sex with like an Irish dude, and who turns out to be an asshole.
Yeah, and I like that though. I like that he, like, for him it was just a game and he didn't realize like, because he's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And like it totally makes sense when you like think about the context of his character, except for maybe the Christmas party thing, which I was like, why would he have fucking invited her if he wasn't
right? And why would he have gone?
Right.
She's having this baby, and he's like, okay, and he knows that she's pregnant, and like the movie's telling you he's cool, he's fine, she's pregnant, it's cool,
right?
And then he like goes, he does the whole rigmarole of being there for the pregnancy, going to the thing, and then he disappears. And I was like,
maybe he got cold feet. I mean, he was a flighty person to begin with, like, right? But yeah, we do lose him without any sort of.
My biggest issue is that she comes back to Earth and like nothing has changed for her.
Yes,
she has the baby, and she's like, you know what, my life was fine, and I'm back to being boring.
Yeah, I agree, and that's like a huge misstep. But that is a very 90s ending to that film. By the way, I do want to mention that her friend in the film went on to play James Gandolfini's sister in The Sopranos, which I thought was really funny. That's like they're playing.
It's like everyone but Geena Davis in this movie is like very Jersey, New York.
Yeah, she was. she was not the most well cast, and it's not because she's not giving a good performance. I think she's giving a great performance. I think the accent is a huge, like, just...
Well, everyone else is just so authentically Brooklyn.
And, like, she narrates some bits, too, so it really doesn't help.
Oh, my God, that narration... I don't know my mom. Like, I can't even do it. It was insane. But enough of the bad things. Let us move on to our 5-star reviews.
5-star reviews! I think she's done a lot of great stuff, as you mentioned before. And I mean, I think there's a lot of amazing things that you could put up there for. I think I've loved Thelma and Louise for years. I had to watch it like at least 4 times in screenwriting class in college. I'd seen it before then. I think that's a really fantastic movie. Beetlejuice is a classic. She's amazing in it. Yep. She's doing something she doesn't really do before. She's sort of like sort of a wet blanket. She normally plays these very fun, but she's this very practical, like very sweet character.
She's playing a mom.
She's playing a mom.
She's really good at it.
But I think, really, and it's shocking when I found out that she was the last minute replacement, A League of Their Own.
Yeah.
And I think what's great about I rewatched A League of Their Own. Movie fucking holds up. I was in fucking tears at the end of that movie.
Gavin, I also chose A League of Their Own.
I think what it is, and I hadn't thought about this when I was younger. I think it comes out at a time. There's not a ton of like female representation in films, especially there's not a lot of female filmmakers. This is Penny Marshall.
Penny Marshall, who we talked about briefly back in our Halloween Witches episode, because she was in Hocus Pocus. Oh, so
with her brother.
Yes.
Which, by the way, speaking of, her brother is in A League of Their Own. He plays the man who runs basically the MLB, but
he's like the Wrigley character.
Yeah, and the original choice for that role was Christopher Walken, and he was too expensive. So she just asked her brother to do it.
Right.
Which I think is hilarious. But I think one of the things that I love about A League of Their Own is it really is a story about sisterhood. I mean, the obvious story is between Geena Davis's character and Lori Petty. But also the sisterhood of the team, the camaraderie, the way the teams played together, that it was more about supporting each other and everything.
Kevin, that scene where the girl who can't read.
Yes! I was just talking about that earlier today.
Oh my God.
But that's the proof, yeah.
If you haven't seen this movie, there's a scene where they're all trying out and they have to go find their name to find out which team they're on or if they've been cut.
Yeah.
And this one girl's up there and you think she's crying because the coach guy's like, did you make a team or did you not? Like, what's the fuck? Like, get the fuck out of here. And she's just kind of like, you can see like the terror on her face. And another girl comes up and like is like, sweetie, can you read? And she's like, and she kind of just shakes her head, and then she helps her find her name, and of course she's on their team, and it's just like, you don't, what a beautiful, simple little moment, and that like really is just the proof of the entire movie. It's just over and over again, these women supporting each other.
And that's, so the point I'm making too is I think besides that, it's also it's like a very subversive film because if you go back and you watch the movie from our perspective now, Tom Hanks is not a lead character.
No.
He's genuinely not. So the really subversive thing about that is there is not a film in which a man has a full character arc. Tom Hanks's character arc is literally, he goes from drunken mess, who's a dick, to slightly nicer drunken mess.
Right.
Like, that's it. And there are some great scenes with him. There's a really good scene between him and Geena Davis where they talk about the team and what the team means to them and why she wants to leave. But really, it's the film about the women.
Yeah.
But I think his character, and I may not be right, I would love to talk to Penny Marshall about this, I think his character is there, or so prominent there, to trick the audience, at least the male portion of the audience, into believing they're watching a film about a man.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think like because he's introduced as like, I need one more shot, it's fine.
Right.
Like, give me, and then like, oh no, he's stuck with the girls. Oh no.
Right.
And at the beginning, he doesn't care. And honestly, he's only he starts shaping up just because he sees they're talented and that excites him. He's excited to like, oh, competition.
Right.
And at the end of the movie, you know, like he goes on to greener pastures.
Yeah.
Where, like they hire him away to coach, I think a developmental league or whatever. Something male baseball essentially. And. So yeah, I totally agree. He is like the red herring, like Trojan horse.
He's there to bring men into this film who traditionally maybe would not have seen this film,
right.
And it's brilliant. It's brilliantly done. And I don't want to take away from Geena because we're here to talk about her, but like the fact that the movie's able to pull that off, they're able to pull off the idea that it is this film that is 90% women in the cast.
Yep.
And pepper it with men, so you may think that there's like some... But it's really not a film about that at all.
So it's one of the greatest sports movies of all time.
I absolutely agree. And I'm not a sports person, so like...
I'm like minimally a sports person.
Yeah, you're more than I am. So.
And to think of like Penny Marshall was able to wrangle Rosie O'Donnell, Madonna.
Yeah.
Madonna who like... kills it. Like, she is good in this movie.
All the way May.
Hello.
No one's called me that in years.
And I love that, like, there are a lot of different women who represent a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And there's, like, they're very playfully judging each other, but not, like, there's no takedown of, like, oh, that slut, like May.
Yeah.
And, like, Rosie O'Donnell's character. And then the woman who, like, the fucking scene where you think they've come to tell Geena Davis that her husband has died, but it's not her, it's the other woman.
The way that scene is played.
Oh, God. It's you end up caring about each and every single one of these women.
And even the superficial things that you think might be a little... There's... Megan Cavanaugh plays Marla Hooch in the film. And, like, that maybe is, like, the meanest plot because she's an amazing athlete who is not pretty. And one of the big things about the league is that, you know, it's
all about aesthetic. You had John Lovitz's character, who is so funny and he's so good at this. He essentially sees her and she's amazing, killing the game. And actually, she takes off a baseball cap and he's like, "We gotta go."
Yeah.
She is the bitch that gets married in the movie.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Happy ending to her.
And it's just a really funny, very touching, very, you know, the main portion of the plot is between these two sisters who are both drafted into the league, Dottie and Kit.
Dottie,
yes. Geena Davis plays Dottie, Lori Petty plays Kit. Dottie's a catcher, Kit is a pitcher, and Dottie is she's the more naturally talented. Yes, absolutely. Though, side note, in the trivia, Lori Petty was a faster runner than Geena Davis and had to run slower during the scenes in which they were running after each other. But yeah, Dottie's the more talented athlete, and
I mean, the reason that Kit gets to go along was only because Dottie's like, "I'll go if you take both of us," and so the movie's just about like the tension between these two girls, and like, you know, Dottie doesn't want to fucking do this.
Right.
She's like, "I've got a husband, I've got a life here." Kit is like scratching for more out of life, and she like wants to do this, and she's begging her, "Please, please, please, let's do this." And so there's a lot of resentment there.
And it's so funny because I watched it with my roommate, Andrea, who hadn't seen the movie in years too. And she mentioned, she was like, you know, when I was younger, I thought Kit was such a brat. But like, I think if you watch it as an older, you understand that sort of desperation of wanting more.
The yearning.
And if you can think about seeing somebody who's more naturally gifted than you and more congratulated for it than you can see that resentment build, and it's handled so well. It's seated so well. Lori Petty's giving a great performance, and you can tell when they're together. There's several scenes where they're together. There's one really heartbreaking scene where they're in the changing room together.
Yeah.
And Geena Davis, like, they feel like real sisters.
Yeah.
Like, she clearly cares about this person.
I mean, that shit is like that's the origin story to a lot of villains.
Yes, absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
You know, like, I am just as good as you. Right. I can do it, like, whatever. And it's very tragic.
Yeah.
And when Geena Davis tries to, you know, pump her up, things go awry. She gets traded to another team.
Yes. Yeah, she threatens to quit, and they switch her sister to another team instead.
Yeah, and I mean, the climax of this movie is they are facing each other in the championship, and I mean, they've been able to sell this league,
right.
and this play is happening, and you've seen Geena Davis' character make this play. And she has to decide whether she's going to do it or not. I mean, in the movies you can read it many different ways. Like, did Kit, you know, overpower her finally?
Right.
Did she make it? Or did Dottie let her have it? You know? And you don't know.
And you don't know what, in general, what would have been better for the relationship either way.
Yeah,
too.
and I mean, honestly, at the end, it's like, it matters.
Right.
But you're coming back next year, right?
No. I want to have kids. We want to have kids.
Dottie, you got plenty of time to have kids. You couldn't give this up. You'd miss this too much.
Miss it? Yeah, I miss putting on all this gear, catching a double header in 100-degree heat, pushing the bus through the mud, getting slammed into every other day by a base runner. Think I'm gonna miss that?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'll miss.
What?
Well, I miss the girls. I miss you, kid.
Me?
Yeah, how many sisters do you think I have? I love you, kid.
Really? Yeah. Just when I want you to stay, you're leaving.
I would say my only negative part of the movie, and not the whole, the wraparound story starts when they're older, and it's the opening of that portion of the Baseball Hall of Fame for the women.
The women, yeah. Which is real.
Yeah, which is real. Absolutely. I've been to the Baseball Hall of Fame, actually. I only went into the gift shop because
you're not sports?
Yeah, because as I said at the time to Dan, this gift shop reminds me of everyone I hated in high school, so I'm going to be outside.
Right.
But the two weird choices I will say is, in the end, it feels a bit like they didn't talk for years. And right. I think it's a little washed away when one of the kids sees her and they're like, Aunt Dottie.
Right.
So, like, you get the idea that they become closer.
They do make it seem that, like, it's been a millennium.
But it does feel like there's been this tension between them. Also, Penny Marshall made this very weird choice for both Lori Petty and Geena Davis, where they would dub their older counterparts.
Yes.
And I think that's really weird. I think it doesn't match perfectly now. Maybe it did at the time, but with also, like HD settings and stuff, it's a little like, what?
Is Geena Davis in makeup?
No.
For the older person?
No.
It looks a lot like her.
Great fucking casting.
It looks a lot like her.
And if it weirds you out even more, 1 week before filming, which means most likely that woman was either already cast to play older Deborah Winger, or they cast someone else in that role to play older Geena Davis.
Because as I was watching it, I was like, "Is this Geena Davis in old makeup?"
Right.
And no one and they were like, "Only her. Everyone else, just get someone else. Get an older person."
No, but it's another actress.
But what a sweet! And when they're all singing a song together.
Oh my god! Oh. No, the ending of the movie destroys me when she sees older John Lovitz.
Yes.
Who you mentioned on Lovitz earlier, apparently had a slightly larger role in the film, and they were looking to cut for time, and they were like, which are his biggest laughs? And so every joke he has, every line he has in the movie is a joke. It's a huge, and that's all in editing, baby.
Right.
It's all in editing.
And I read that they cut out a lot of Tom Hanks, Geena Davis potential love mess.
Thank God. Because that plays to what I was talking about earlier, where he's no longer like a...
Yeah.
Because she is married. Bill Pullman shows up for 2 scenes.
And he's great.
And
I believe it.
And that was... My sister had the world's... between that and Casper, had the world's biggest Bill Pullman boner. Like, she...
Father figure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She was like, And she's only 3 years older than me, so...
I can't say enough about... I mean, this movie also came out at the right time, I think, when we were young and impressionable, and just like... Oh, women. And what's kind of tragic though is like, so it had the 25th anniversary like last year or something.
Yeah.
And she did a lot of interviews with people, and she's like, people keep asking her like, oh, did it change women in sport movies and whatever? And she was like, nah. She's like, at the time, a lot of people thought like this was it. Like, and then she's like, when we did Thelma and Louise, people thought this is it. Like, it's gonna happen.
All of the stuff that she's done post that with the research and whatnot has occurred after.
Right. And so she's had these like really breakthrough, groundbreaking, iconic movies that you would think would suggest like a turning point for the Hollywood industry, but then it's like, nope.
Yeah.
They were like, why make another like sporty movie? And it's fucking insane. Like the star wattage of this movie of these women. Like, I even read that Rosie O'Donnell was doing stand up for like the crowds during like sets, and what a fucking star, you know? Yeah. Like, it's insane that, like, not even this, not Thelma and Louise could, like, change things over.
Oh, my God.
Anyway.
Yes. Do you want to talk about some other, real quick, as I mentioned, Beetlejuice and Thelma and Louise?
I want to mention Quick Change, starring...
I love Quick Change, thank you.
Because I wrote down, I am Bill Murray, living in New York City.
Yes.
Bill Murray, who just wants to fucking leave New York. He hates it so much. And I was like, I relate.
Also, and I know you ended up watching it, The Fly.
The Fly.
She's amazing in The Fly. Ooh. And when I left my apartment tonight, Dan was like, Geena Davis's best movie is The Fly. And I was like, quiet, you.
I was very nervous to watch it.
Yeah. There's really one super gross scene.
Yeah. Grundle things.
Yeah.
But it's really fucking good.
Yeah.
It's I mean, Jeff Goldblum at the height of his powers, looking sexy as hell.
Yeah.
And she looks great, and she's really good into it. The movie is also very tight.
Yeah.
It's very disgusting and gross, but it's so like well executed. Like they're gonna give it to you just like right at the exact moment. It's not like it's not hitting you over the head with it.
Yeah.
But that ending is
yeah.
This like
there was
grotesque.
There was a grosser ending plan. So
I know. I read all about the gross thing, like and
the birth and the maggot and
and they cut out a bunch of gross things also that I read, and I was like, thank you, Lord.
Yeah, David Cronenberg did a really good job at like deciding what was best because he is a master of body horror and like deciding what was best for us to see and whatnot. He's since gone on to make an opera version of The Fly. Did you know that?
I did not know that, and I don't know if I want that. Okay. Should we talk a little bit about Thelma and Louise? I don't want to like leave that out.
Yeah, no, we should talk about Thelma and Louise.
I mean,
Sorry.
I had never seen the movie before, and you mentioned it, and I just want to say, like, she's doing an accent here too.
Yes,
Southern accent.
I don't actually mind it,
and I don't mind it at all. And I felt a very type of way with first of all. Brad Pitt in this movie.
Yeah.
Good for him. Good for her. Good for the director who got them fucking and put it on camera. It's very sexy. I had heard about this ending, and I was just like, the emotions of this movie are so aggressive, and I don't know. This is a classic, iconic movie for a fucking reason.
Yeah,
and these two women are strong and badass and complicated.
And one of the things I love, and this is just indicative of a scene early on in the film, they kill a man.
Yeah.
Well, technically, Susan Sarandon kills a man.
Yes.
And
because
he was raping Thelma, who's played by Geena Davis.
Right.
And so it seems pretty justified in my book.
Hello.
But that's what causes all the problems. It's the inciting incident, as they say. And but the scene that happens directly after it, when they're in a diner and they're like at each other's throats because this thing happened, to me felt very real, because it wasn't too like, I think Hollywood would normally be like, oh, now these women have to comfort each other. They have to like get together and no, it was literally like, these are two human beings who've just witnessed something really fucked up and now don't know how to process it.
And I think what's great is they don't like sugarcoat, like it's not like, I'm here for you, girl, you did the right thing.
Right.
It's messy, and it's like, if you would have just not been like flirting with that guy all night and what I told you, and she's like, fuck you, I wanted to do whatever in a vacation and blah blah.
Right.
And it's messy, and it's like real, they're not judging each other, and it's just like they're really getting through the emotions of like, what the fuck just happened, and what do we do now?
Boys, don't get mad, okay, but where are we going?
Oklahoma City. Jimmy's gonna wire me some money, and then we're gonna see where we're going.
You talked to him? Did you tell him? What'd he say? Is he mad?
No, I didn't tell him, and that's what we gotta get straight now. Daryl's been calling mad as a hornet, making all kinds of noise, and when you call him, you gotta not tell him anything about this. You gotta just make sure everything sounds real normal.
And seeing Geena Davis start fucking robbing places is amazing.
Yeah. It's a really great movie. I do enjoy that movie a lot.
I just wanted to mention that.
It's a well-rounded character. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. Just as a recap, before we move into our fast forward, what was your bottom pick and what was your top pick, Louis?
My bottom pick was Cutthroat Island, and my top pick was A League of Their Own.
Excellent. And just to recap, my bottom pick was Transylvania 65000, and my top pick was also A League of Their Own. So let's move into our fast forward. As we mentioned before, Geena Davis did the first season of The Exorcist, which was last year.
Yeah.
And she played a character who, I won't say too much because it's kind of a reveal on the show, but she'll be very familiar to people who have seen the film. Wink, wink.
Oh my god.
And she's very good in it.
She was in Marjorie Prime.
Marjorie Prime, which came out this past year, which was not an amazing film, but like her performance is
good,
really solid.
I like the movie enough. I think it's very interesting. Like, there's interesting things happening. It's like, it's a play.
It's very stagey. That's the problem with it. It's not, like, as much as it wants to be cinematic, it's still very stagey.
Right.
But she does give, like, there is some heartbreaking scenes in there, and she's very good at it. So
yeah, I don't know that she's like terribly interested in doing a lot of like, you know, I mean, she's in her 60s,
right?
Not that there's like a million roles for her anyway. But I don't think she's certainly not like making whatever. If she's gonna make something, it's because she believes in it and she's passionate about it. I think she's very passionate about her work that she does with, you know, her institution and the the film festival.
Yes. And the one thing I did want to talk about is... I think, and I brought it up just a little bit earlier. She also has another film, by the way, that hasn't come out yet called Don't Talk to Irene. I haven't heard much about it. It premiered at Toronto last year. I want to say this. I feel like the unfortunate thing about Geena Davis is she came to rise in stardom during a time in which Hollywood, and for the most part still hasn't really dealt with this, but is trying, because of the works of her, reconcile their idea that suddenly a woman can become quote-unquote too old. And as I mentioned at the beginning, she's in her 60s. She does not look like she's in her 60s. But from 1996 to 99, she went from an action star to like doing TV and being a mom in films.
Yep.
And it was almost like Hollywood was like, you're done. And that's really unfortunate because she is so talented and so quirky and so interesting. She did this film in 2009. It was an Australian film called Accidents Happen.
God.
Were you not a fan?
I was not a fan.
But I thought her performance...
She was okay, yeah.
Was good. I think the movie's a little weak in certain areas, especially since like it was shot in Australia and it's set in America and nobody else can pull off an American accent.
I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Where are you?
No one. Which was really shocking to me. But I thought her performance was really great. She's sort of a tough-talking mom. She was perhaps not the most properly cast, because I feel like they needed somebody a little harder edge that didn't perhaps look as beautiful as she does.
It's a complicated role, and I think she does a good job with it. I just thought that overall, I was like, what kind of emo nonsense am I watching?
The writing was a little ridiculous. But like that's the sort of like I feel like 2009 was more appropriate time to start casting her as the mother of teenagers than 1999.
Yeah. It's crazy because no one looks like her.
No.
When you think of like a lot of Hollywood, there's like a mold of like, you know, what is beautiful, what is castable, what is bankable. And no one looks like Geena Davis.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly she's tall and gorgeous, but her cheekbones, her hair.
I was talking about that with somebody else too. I think she's also slightly intimidating to men because I think she has some, and we've mentioned many times that she's gorgeous, but I think she has some very masculine features. She has, like you mentioned, the cheekbones. She has a very strong jaw.
Her voice.
Her voice.
Her voice is so like strong.
But I love these things about her.
Yeah, and I will say, you know, I believe her when she's playing these mom characters because she's so strong.
Right.
And I can feel that she's very protective. And I think the reason why we both like her in A League of Their Own is like, she's surrounded by all these other women, and I think just she has really good chemistry with other strong females, and it is rare that we see a man kind of like elevate to that level.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why with these other movies, I'm like, I don't buy it. Even like, I like Quick Change a lot. And is there like any chemistry there?
Right. And maybe that's also part of the problem in Cutthroat Island is because there's something about Geena Davis that there's a maturity level that she can't sink down to say those lines.
Yeah.
And like, I do think like that's an obstacle for her now that I want her to, because I think that she's this sort of refined human being.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love her to pieces. I'm glad we're able to get to her. As I mentioned before, Don't Talk to Irene comes out sometime this year. Somebody picked it up, I'm sure.
Right. If you're a Grey's Anatomy fan, you saw her on Grey's Anatomy, and she was really good in that.
Was
also.
she? At that point, I was not watching.
I was watching it, and her character has a long-ish stint on it, but she was very good. And again, it was interesting to see her. She was surrounded by women, directed by women, you know, and it wasn't like a dumb love thing or a mom thing. It was like a badass professional woman.
And once again, like genuinely, if you've not watched the first season of The Exorcist, I was one of those people that was like, Exorcist TV show, stupid, do not want. No, just great in it. And it's a really effective, very creepy, dark, like scary.
Is it like a serial thing? Like, so like the first season is like one thing and then the second season will be something else?
Yes, kind of. It contains there's a continuing character. I feel bad saying this. To me, it really feels like it's not coming back for a third season, unfortunately. But it is like there's carryover characters and there's slight carryover plot, like an overarching plot.
Gotcha.
But the main situation, the main exorcism situation is different.
Gotcha. Cool. Is there anything else we need to mention about Geena?
I think that's a really great overview. She's really fantastic. We've mentioned her films are available everywhere. Like,
yeah, I watched a lot of them on Amazon.
I did not have an issue finding many of these films. There's only one on Netflix, by the way. And let me tell you, don't watch it.
Which one is it?
Me, Him, Her, directed by Max fucking Landis.
I know. I watched that, and I was like, okay, I was gonna love this.
Yeah, it was bad. It was real.
She's not into that a lot, though, is she?
She's literally 3 scenes.
Yeah.
So, and she's married to Scott Bakula in it. So, Dr. Sam Beckett. Troy. But yeah, so I guess that wraps up this discussion, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with another subject.
Right.
But until then, if you want to reach us, you can contact us on Twitter at The Mixed Reviews.
We're on Facebook at The Mixed Reviews.
You can email us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com.
And then you can listen to us everywhere.
Everywhere. We are on iTunes. We are on Spotify now. Mm-hmm. We are on Stitcher Radio. We're on iHeartRadio app. And
I'm outside your window yelling at you.
Yes, you are. Please stop. Google Music, and pretty much like we're everywhere now. It's just pretty crazy.
The glow up 2018.
Yeah, exactly.
This is our 21st episode.
This is our 21st episode. Our podcast can officially drink, which is funny because we've been drinking since the first one. And also, real quick, if you listen to us on iTunes, and I believe on Stitcher as well, maybe Spotify, I'm not sure, you can rate and review us. Give us a 5-star rating. Let us know what you really think about us. And by that, I mean a 5-star rating.
Right. There's no crying in baseball, but we will cry if you give us bad reviews.
Absolutely. Until next week, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.